about today's lab. Somewhat of a brief lab. I want to use this opportunity to kind of show you some of the ELK resources. Just keep in mind that these open source tool will change, the packages change. So when you revisit this down the line, just always good to go back to their documentation and look at how you can, install and use the tool. But first, we will work on our network traffic scanning, right, from Kali Linux. I know that some of you have used Wireshark before. This is just a little bit of quick review for many of you, but we're going to run it directly from Kali Linux. So you can download the VirtualBox file. It's going to come down as a zip file. Right-click, show more options, 7-zip, extract files. Then you have an extracted folder like this. Open that up, open its subfolder, and play the blue file. Then once you have that loaded to your VirtualBox app, we're going to go ahead and start the VBox. So once we're logged in, we are going to run Wireshark. Wireshark is equipped with Kali Linux. You can install it on your Windows system. I think we have that on the desktop PC here. And so what we'll do is we are going to start with Wireshark. And what you can do is you can focus on a different or a specific type of protocol or a certain type of traffic by doing the filtering. Okay, so now let's log into Kali. K-A-L-I. So once in Kali, if you have terminal, you can just call the application by its name, like Wireshark. But if you click the application, which is the blue button with the dragon icon on it, if you click that, and if you go to sniffing and spoofing, it has all the tool set for you there. So Wireshark is blue fin right here on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and click Wireshark. It's going to prompt you with the interface for capture. In Kali Linux virtual machine, it's only going to be the F0, ETH0. That's your Ethernet 0. We're going to select this and click the blue fin at the top to start. So as it's default to F0, but you can click it and then click the blue fin. Now, you might not see anything yet. You have to generate traffic. So we're going to go ahead and click our browser open. And with the browser open, we're going to go ahead and search for, you can go to google.com or search directly in the bar. We're going to go HTTP website. So we will find the CERN website. So we can click on that. Then, you can hit refresh a couple of times. Then I'm going to search for another one. So I'm just generating traffic at this point. I want to generate HTTP traffic. So HTTP website. I accidentally typed HTTPS. Of course I have it. Okay. So let's visit HTTP forever. And, you see the little block with the slash through like this. That's mean that it's not safe, but, and then, so open a view HTTP website, right? Okay, so once we generated the traffic with Wireshark, let me expand. And you would see the green fin right here, that means it's capturing. We can open that back up. And then if you want to pause it after a few minutes, you can click the red button to stop. Now, so in order for us, and you can filter this. So if you want to only filter by HTTP, just put in HTTP. So in the filter bar here, you can put in the protocol that you want to look for. You can also go to analyze and you can use display filter. This thing will pop up and it's going to show you the format on how you can put in your filter criteria. So when we put in HTTP, we just put in all lowercase like this. You can put in other protocol by just typing it in the URL. I mean, in the filter section. Okay. Then for the next part, you are going to click statistic on your menu because the whole chapter was talking about data analysis, right? So you're gonna go ahead and click statistic. And after we click statistic, we're gonna select conversations. So we want to see the communication between the systems back and forth. So system A talking to system B respond to system A request from system B, back and forth, right? Just like how you have a conversation with someone on the phone. So you can click conversations and it tells you that A and B, there are 102 on mine for packets. And yours might be different. It also depends on what kind of traffic we generate on our systems. But in general, when I look at the conversations, A and B, I have 102 packets. And also the total packets in the overall network is 7,645. Because it is a sniffer, it's going to sniff out everything that talks. And the filtered is 1.33%. So because I'm filtering based on protocol. So take a screenshot. How many conversations were captured? How many packets were sent from A to B? So coming back here, when you're looking at packets A, arrow B, that's the number, right? From A to B. And A sent to B on mine, it will give you the size, the data size, which is for mine, it's 81 kilobyte. And then from B communicated to A was also 51. Yeah.
I have three addresses.
Yeah, you might have more, depends on.
All the time. I have three different ones.
Only A to B. Did you do the conversations?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the FFF is all broadcast. It means that. When you guys see all Fs, those are broadcast address.
Oh, you said like the last one and the first one?
We need to remember these networking things. Yeah. So when we look at the conversations, right, under statistic, you can, so when you investigate like a certain system communicating with another system, you can also follow their conversations. Okay. Then in that, we would click on IPv4 and it would give you the count information on the tab for the number of addresses that we're communicating. So I know that 10.0.2.15 is my Kali Linux, right? And it would communicate with these destinations. And that will be varied based on how you generate your traffic, which website you visit, right? What kind of service you're running. And then it does the count for you for the packets for each of these. So when you're looking at the IP version 4, you can look at the first entry. What's the IP address for system A? What is the IP address for system B, the destination? How many packets were sent from A? And how many packets were sent from B? So at this point, what we're gonna do is we are going to click a copy button, and we're gonna create a JSON file. On the left here, click the arrow down, copy on the left, and you have a choice, right? CSV, yeah, there are a lot of data analysis tool that's able to read it, but we're gonna choose .json. And then we're gonna close the conversation window and we're gonna return to the app. We're only gonna focus on version 4 IP address statistic. And that's gonna be the destinations and the port, right? We're gonna drill down to where the recipient and the service port value. So we're gonna go ahead and close this. Go to statistic. And then we're gonna go down to IPv4 statistic. And then destination and ports. So this gives you the overall, right, information. The data here is going to give you some count information, percentage, and so on. And you can see that 443 comes up quite a bit. That's HTTPS. Your browser these days convert your HTTP traffic to more safe browsing mechanism that's incorporated, right? So even if I'm using port 80, in order for it to load, a lot of the times now that they also host it, making sure that it converts it back to HTTPS. So you see some of that, and that's under TCP. So it tells me here that in the display filter, we're gonna look at the port 80 for TCP and UDP. See if it comes up. So let's clear the filter. You can press enter or click apply or the arrow. So this is a quick way for us to really looking at specific port value, right? Port 80. And because we understand the process of get, right, or post with HTTP. So because TCP requires synchronization and acknowledgement, so you see that coming back and forth here between my system and the web server. And at some point, the web server would respond and acknowledge. So it would give me the sequence and acknowledgement value right here. Okay, so you can look at the entire conversation, or you can look at the individual packet. Double click the packet and you will see. Okay. So it tells me to go ahead and put in the filter. Take a screenshot. Now, if you're looking at the statistic for IPv4, we can filter this here. So put in the filter also in the statistic for IPv4, and it's gonna narrow, it's gonna filter out all the information that's only gonna give you port 80. So to answer that question, it says, which IP addresses use port 80 at 100%? I have quite a few. This one gives me 100% here. And then you can look at the next one. So mostly the listed one is going to be. You don't have to list all of them, but I want you to be able to look at the stat information for certain port. Okay. So when we need to filter a port for a certain suite, right, like TCP, we would do TCP dot port equal sign and then the port value. And we can apply the OR operator by doing the double pipe. And we would say UDP dot port equal sign 80. And if you want to filter other port, right, we would put in the port value. So after we're done, we're going to close the destination and port number. I mean, a window. And we're going to go back to the statistic menu and we're going to do DNS. So statistic. And then you're going to go ahead and select DNS. Sorry, eyes are burning. And earlier we were talking about the A records, right? You can see the statistic for that here along with the quadruple A record. So whenever that you have DNS at work or when you use the web, DNS is at work, you would see the A records is used. So it tells you here that it has a count 100. For mine, it's 154 counts for the packets that would contain a record related information. So what's the percentage for ADNS? And you can look at the percentage in the middle column there. Right, mine shows 57.04. Yours might be a little different as we might have different traffic. And then the percentage for the quadruple A, which is right above that. It would, so combine these two together equals to 100%, right? So the A and the quadruple A, if you add those percentage together, it's going to be 100. About. Long day, huh? Then we're going to look at the total count for our payloads. Okay. So, sorry, let me expand this. If you expand your window, you would be able to see. Otherwise, you just need to scroll down. Here's my payload size. Here's my count for my payload. That's at the bottom of that window. And then the average information, the min and the max. So put down the information for your payload. We're going to go ahead and close the statistic information for DNS after we write down all the. So those things can be recorded, or you can also use that for graph, the statistic. There is a graphing mechanism under for the Wireshark. But if you are putting together a report, you want to focus on, okay, what am I looking at for the output, right? What kind of analysis should I be performing? But in Wireshark, you can look at network traffic. You can look at the type of packets. You can also, you can also use built-in stream graphs. There's a lot of different things. Flow graph. So there we go. Okay. So for the next part, we're going to look at statistic and we're going to look at endpoints. Now, because in the virtual machine, we generated a little bit of traffic. In a regular network environment, your endpoints list would be more. You might only have a few here, right? For me, I only have 2. And then in the IP version 4, right, these are the systems that we're communicating back and forth between my system and the other servers. But in the regular network environment, you would have a lot more. So how many endpoints generate TCP traffic? So if we're looking at the TCP tab, it also lists, right? So if you can see, there's mine or my virtual machine, and you can go down if you wish, you can count them or see the tab number. It does say 33 here, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 different devices or systems, endpoints. So just to count them up, because the 33 here just indicating, right, 33 entries of packet information. Which endpoint generate the most packets? So when you look at this, you can look at the packet counts. So the highest packet count for me would probably be the 142 there. And that's the IP address here. And that's for port 80. And it gives you the breakdown of specific type of packets out of the 142 or the total packets. Now we're gonna go ahead and save this, right? So when you close it to save your capture file, we're gonna go ahead and click save. You can give it a name and just keep in mind that it's under home and home Cali, so we can do lab 8 capture. And you don't have to put the file extension. It's gonna be the pcap-ng. So we're just gonna click save. So outside of Wireshark, you're gonna see something similar with T-Shark. So you can use T-Shark to generate data for ELK, which is Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. Okay, so think of it like it is like Wireshark, but in a terminal. And we're gonna capture the packets, and we are going to use the ELK framework to read the data or analyze the data, like what we talked about in our lecture. So in the same virtual machine, you are going to open up your terminal. So let me close some of this and open up a new terminal. Okay, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and issue the T-Shark command. And we're going to use the -i for the interface, right? F0, that's our interface name. And we're going to output this into a file called packets.json. So I'm gonna, full disclosure, at the end of this lab, the last step to read the JSON file, I did run into issue with the post, right? Because the file, you need a new line carriage, and so you have to tweak the file in order for it to read properly. It won't plug in the right parameter. So when you issue this command, what it's gonna do is, it's just like Wireshark that we did before, but it's gonna capture all your traffic, right? And it's gonna put it into a file called packets.json. So I'm gonna go ahead and generate more traffic by visiting some websites or refreshing the website. And then maybe go to search. I think we visit this one last. Okay. So once you generate the traffic, just like what you did with Wireshark for T-Shark, and you wait a few minutes, so that way it has some data, right? We want to give it some data, and you can cancel it. So I can close some of these websites. And then see how it's changing the number there? So we're gonna go ahead and click Control-C to cancel. So just wait a few minutes and you can stop it. Now, in order to use Elasticsearch, you need a key. So we're gonna generate a GPG key by using the command on step 26. And we need to input our Kali password.
You do like 5 minutes?
No, just a few minutes is fine. Now on the next command, which is 27, it is an entire command. Okay. Don't do it one by one because it's gonna throw error. So you are gonna use echo and you are going to generate, you basically create, we're gonna pull the key from the key rings from our last step because we generate the key for Elastic or ELK stack. And we are going to put it into the list for Elastic 7. Okay. So do it as an entire command. Oh, not the next one too. So just the curl for the key. I did that already, right? Copy. Oh, wait, I did this. So I'm just gonna do the echo. So after you generate the key ring, you are going to use that command to get the key sign. Okay. So after we did 27, we're gonna push for update. So come here and do sudo apt update. That takes a few minutes. You could run the updates at the beginning, like what we've done. Okay, so while it's updating, after I finish the update, we would then install Elasticsearch. Ideally, we want to have the key so that way we can access. Now, if you download and install from the website, right? If you go here and then you sign up for an account and then you get a free trial, you're still gonna have to generate a key in order to use the free trial. Okay. But because it requires an account. Okay, so after I finish update, I now would install Elasticsearch. Anytime that you use any component in the ELK framework, we always start with Elasticsearch, the E. Okay. So while that's installed, our next step, we're going to edit the configuration file. And Elasticsearch it uses a YAML file, so you are going to access the elasticsearch.yml and be able to edit. So you simply just put localhost in, or if you have a domain name or network host name, you would put that in. So just put localhost. You can also use, if you put localhost, your system name is Kali, right? In Linux, localhost means system name. But so when we say localhost, it just refers to itself through the loopback address. Okay, so I finished installing Elasticsearch. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the edit of the configuration file, which is a very, so when you do this, just use your arrow key to move down, right? You notice that there's a section, there's cluster, there's node. So if you have other information to input, this is where you would edit the configuration file. We've done this before, right? So you need to go down to, so it tells you where the logs is going to be stored. It's under var logs and the application name. Memory, I don't need to change anything for the memory. I'm going to go down to the network. See how it says network.host? For that section, it's an IP address. You can, so first thing, I need to remove the hashtag to uncomment it. Second thing, I need to make sure you can use the IP address for the system, but you can just put localhost. One word, right? So we would take the arrow key, press it to go down, uncomment that line by removing the hashtag, and then change the IP address to the localhost name. Now, in the network environment, you can just edit that part with an IP address of your actual domain host, or you can use its domain name information, right? So once we already know how, so you guys know how to save. I forgot to put that step, but after I edit this part, I would press Control and X key on my keyboard.
You don't have to put the hashtag there?
No, yeah, you want that uncommented. Yeah, hashtag is comment. And Control X, right? And it's asked me, do you want to save? I'm going to press Y and press enter because it's nano. Control X, Y, and enter. So once I saved my YAML file, I'm going to start the Elasticsearch. So you would do a sudo system control start Elasticsearch. That starts the service. It's going to take a bit. Okay. So once the Elasticsearch start, if you read the configuration file, you go down, it defaulted to port 9200 in that file, in the configuration file. And you can change this, but this particular application defaulted to 9200. So all right. So wait, don't cancel it, just let it go. It would take like a couple minutes to do the Elasticsearch start because it needs to activate that port. And then we would do a curl get localhost 9200. Okay. So what am I seeing here? Right? It's pulling information from that was used in the configuration file and plug it into the actual service, right? The name of my system is Kali. How do I know that? It is the host name. We told it a host name, right? So when you tell it host name, it is Kali. Okay? And then it would tell you the cluster ID. This is just a way that it would recognize. So it's trying to pull all the information based on the configuration file and then the build. So my Elasticsearch service is working by seeing this. Okay. The application is running. Okay. Take a screenshot. Now we are going to install Kibana, which is the K in the ELK. We're not gonna do the Logstash, but you can go to their documentation. They have great tutorial for how to use Logstash. Okay, so I had copy. Okay, so we're gonna install Kibana. It's gonna take a couple minutes. After we install Kibana, which is the K and the ELK, right? We already had the E, now we're working on the K. And we're gonna do a system control enable and start on Kibana. Now, Kibana relies on web services, meaning that I have to run some form of web server package. And we would use NGINX. And NGINX uses Apache in the back. So, Apache is equipped with almost all the latest Ubuntu and Debian base, but it always doesn't hurt to check to see if your packages are installed. Okay, so after we install Kibana, enable and start it, I'm still at 20%. So this process might take a few minutes. We are going to create a file for the user configuration. So if you look at this, right? This is the account name or the user account. And the OpenSSL password is this. Okay. But you can change this. But yeah, by default, we can just use whatever. So whatever that you would use for the password and Kibana admin. So we would create that. And then we are going to, let me double check this part, because earlier when I tested, there's only default. But if I missed something from earlier. Okay, so now let me start. Enable and start. Okay. And then we're going to start Kibana service. So that should be okay there. Then we're going to create a user configuration for Kibana. So here you can just make a password. I'm just going to use Callie. Press enter and then verify. So it has an account Kibana admin. And then we're going to let me do something real quick. I'm going to check to see if localhost is actually there. So instead of having you guys create or modify that default file, because when I tested this last year, it's a little different. But when I tested it earlier, only the default is there. Sorry. Trying to leverage. So we're going to, let me check something real quick. That's what I thought. Okay, so as you notice that I did look into sites available directory, and there's only a default, the default file or configuration file. When I did this in the past, it actually generate your local host file, after it activated the service. So we're going to use this. Okay. Okay. So now we're gonna go in, and it doesn't look exactly like this, but you're gonna make it look close to it. Okay. So listen port. We're gonna go down, use the arrow key to go down. It's already listening at port 80. And for the default server at port 80, that's fine. Go down to SSL configuration. We're gonna skip. We're gonna go all the way down to the end. Virtual host configuration, yeah. So for the last part under the virtual host configuration, let me double check. Yeah, because the other one is for the PHP, the location, directory, try file URL. Yeah, we're not running any PHP. So here you are gonna uncomment before the server. Uncomment the next line, uncomment the next line. You can do this following too for the blank line. And then for the server name example.com, you're gonna take out the example.com and you're gonna put localhost. You can also use, I don't know if the IP address parameter would plug into here, okay, but just whatever the domain name that you would have. Okay. And then go down. So you need to add after you have your local host, you see how there's authentication basics. This has changed since last, okay? If you want, you can put down the, you can uncomment these two. It doesn't really matter. It's just gonna put the index file. But go down to before location, we're gonna have to add. Earlier, I actually left the root and the index comment, but I'm gonna test it and see. So you're gonna have to add the authentication basic. So auth underscore basic restricted access semicolon auth basic. So you have to add those lines. User file. Oh yeah, I see it. Thank you. It's a string, so etc nginx htpasswd users. So for the location, go down to the location and uncomment it, and then go down to the next line. See how it says try files URL whatever? So after the curly brace, give it a few extra line, and then we're going to add in, so indents there, and then you're gonna add in your proxy information. So you're gonna do a proxy pass HTTP localhost dot colon 5601 That's Kibana port. 9200 was the Elasticsearch. And then you gotta add the other proxy line too.
After HTTP, it should be 2 slashes. I don't know if you call that.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at the next one. I'm already on like 2 lines later, so my mind. Okay, so we're gonna do a proxy HTTP. So this is where you would add your proxy version information. 1.1 proxy set. Header. Upgrade. So you want to give it, because it's gonna plug this information that you give it in the configuration file into when the application is running. Upgrade. And then we're gonna set another header for proxy. Host. And oh, I put hot. Long day. Proxy. Set. Oh yeah, so now it's the cache bypass. And that's gonna be HTTP upgrade. And then we're going to hit tab for the first curly brace and then the second curly brace to close that out. You can check. Everything else is just comment after that. You can also uncomment the curly brace down here if that's what you want. That will be a little cleaner, but you know.
I have a
Yes,
question.
yeah.
After the double slashes, is it the 2 dots off?
Oh, yeah, and I made a boo-boo there. I wasn't paying attention when I was trying to talk and type.
That happens.
So, no. No colon. Yeah, check syntax. Everything should be okay. I tested this earlier. It should be all right. Control X. Yes. Enter. And then if we want to test this, right? So we'll just run this on our terminal. So we're going to enable the configuration. Everything should be good there. Then we want to check the configuration through NGINX. So it tells you that everything is okay. That means our syntax, everything is fine through the configuration file. Then we're going to open up our browser and we'll test to see if it works. Yeah, it works. Yay. Good job. Then next step's gonna fail. Okay, so we're good here, right? It says welcome to Elasticsearch. All the stuff that we have worked hard to set this up. Now the whole point is to use JSON to read your file, right? I gotta tweak this a little bit. Full disclosure, this is gonna work 50% right now. And it's because we need to have an extra line carriage in our capture file. So I originally had the curl command to read the capture file, but it's gonna throw the binary error for data read. But what the heck, we're just gonna run this. So I'm gonna tell you why it's giving you the error. So you see this, you know that your Elasticsearch is working and your Kibana is working and it's good. All the stuff that you need to set up. Now we need to read the JSON file. And it's gonna tell you this, okay? So what does it mean? We are able to see Elasticsearch data information through JSON reader. However, it tells you that it needs a line carriage right here. So that means that in your file, in your JSON file, your capture file that you had earlier from T-Shark, it just lumped all the data up line after line after line, because when you're doing a file output, it's just gonna stream the data onto the file. You get what I mean? So at the end of your file, if you can find that capture.json file, go to the end of the file, you just put your cursor to the end of the file and you press an enter to give it a new line. And that's all it needs. And then you can try to run it again. So that's as far as I can get to troubleshoot this particular command, because I swore that last year, you can watch the old video, it worked. But after you do that, then you would use Kibana through your browser to view your data. Or you can just go to the website, download, install, and use the graphical user interface. But what I did with the lab was I had you generated the data through T-Shark, which is your network analysis data. Install all the things that you need, and then run it in Linux and through the terminal and editing the configuration file. So you know how to do it if you need to do it. The only thing that you need to fix is for it to read the JSON file that you created, okay? For Elasticsearch, but it mostly worked. It just tells you that it's able to read most of it, what it is, but it's not able to see beyond like the actual content, because you need a line carriage right there. If those of you know programming, right, the //n is a new line carriage, which is a blank line that's added to the end, terminated with a new line at the end of the file. Yeah. Yeah, it says error, root cause, illegal argument exception. The reason for the ELK request must be terminated with a new line. So it cannot take the T-Shark data that you had and put it into ELK because of the absence of that new line. But anyway. Are we good? Okay, so so after this, right, we are going to submit your screen captures, all of that good stuff on Canvas. Let me stop share and stop my recording. We still have a lot of time, so no rush. Okay. Yeah, my Zoom just. No, because